if you have at all called out this ongoing trend of individuals within comic books in terms of the culture when it comes to the mainstream comics that is DC and Marvel, and they're using these characters, a lot of which they did not ever create, to they're sort of funneling their social issues, their political approaches through these characters. Now, a lot of them, the activists, would say, well, it's always been like this. I'm not going to spend hours debunking this nonsense in terms of it being so on the nose. So, I mean, it's so predictable in terms of the narrative that are being put out there when it comes to not only just the comic books, but also just depictions, live action depictions. So shows and such. I've done plenty of videos discussing this. But one of the major defaults that people point to when it comes to this is the kids. When you talk about diversity, these forceful diversity and cornballish diversity efforts, representation efforts, they talk about the kids. That's one of the first things they signal. So if you criticize it, we saw this with the whole Captain Marvel thing. You say something negative about Captain Marvel, the character, or the movie, well, it wasn't for you. Think about all the kids that are inspired, by this character, Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, aka Tokenized Marvel. Think about that. The kids, they have to see themselves. They're talking about the girls on that side, right? The girls have to see themselves. They have to see themselves. It's as if anytime you criticize Carol Danvers, you're just criticizing all female characters, which isn't the case ever. But who needs to tell the truth when you can just straw man the position? But they always signal to the kids, don't they? They always point to the kids. Representation and diversity efforts are for the kids. They're not for you. They're not for you. Now I want to talk about how completely idiotic that is and how it's actually diametrically opposed to these efforts that they are trying to promote. But it's out of selfishness. Let's get that out the way. Because it's not about the kids. The kids are just something, and they're creatures that pretty much the vast majority of individuals, even the bad ones that do bad things to people, for the most part agree that kids are precious. So if you can inspire them in any kind of way, in a positive manner, that's a good thing. You don't want to do anything bad to the kids. So we all recognize that. They do this with politics too so much, where they'll advocate for a policy, right? And instead of just saying, well, no, this is me, I just want to force my whimsical ideals upon you, they say, well, this is for the kids. Think about all the kids that we're saving by doing this. It's always the kids. They're not honest enough to just say, well, this is what I'm advocating. This is what I'm an advocate of. They have to use the kids as their stool, right? But that's not it. It's just idiotic. And the main reason it's idiotic, the main reason it's nonsensical, and the main reason it's diametrically opposed to the crap that you guys promote, it's this simple. People, certainly when I was growing up, and I grew up in that time, there was a short period of time I talked about this, going into the 90s and the 2000s, where everybody wasn't really obsessed with race. You had people that were, of course, but not everybody. So a little short period of time where everybody wasn't obsessed with race and representation, right? It didn't matter. It didn't take away from the merit. Everybody recognized it was a show with all black people, it was a show with all white people. If it was good, it was good. Nobody cared about diversity. But when it comes to these comic book characters, it's a slap in the face to guys like myself that grew up liking The Flash, for example, who was my favorite character. Why was he my favorite character? Because he was fast. He was fast. That was his superpower. Running really, really fast. Now, I was a heck of an athlete growing up. And as a kid, I was very fast. You kick these kids' butts in field day. And obviously, that took me all the way as a collegiate track and field athlete. So I got something, and I connected with The Flash on that note right there. But the reason why it's so silly that they try to point to the kids and they say this is for them, they have to see themselves, is because they are then limiting these individuals to the race, kids, by the way, to their race, gender, what have you, sexuality, whether from whatever. And they say that you can't get anything out of this character, such as the Flash. He's a white guy, right? I can't see myself in that. So that doesn't do anything to stomp out the racism that they obsess over, does it? In fact, it perpetuates it, because you're saying that I cannot love this character unless that character is of the same color as me. I can't see myself. I can't relate to this. And that's really where the racism stems in the first place. We apply these defaults, these traits, these attributes that can differ obviously from person to person, certain ones, but we apply them to certain races. And we make opinions based on that, judgments based on that. Whereas there are things that these individuals hold, these characters, that's why they were so good. These characters that we grew up loving. We saw something in them that we could relate to. And some use it as escapism. They don't want to relate. But quite often, there's something that we can connect to when it comes to these characters that has nothing to do with race. But you limit me to that by trying to signal to me saying, well, I have to see a black version of this character, which is why you get all these goofy hand-me-downs, you know, Black Wally West and stuff like that. You get that because you get these fools that are like, or Black Spider-Man, you know, everybody's favorite new tokenized character because of Spider-Verse. Everybody's favorite Miles Morales, even though he's just a freaking copy of Peter Parker. That's all he is. But the fact that you're limiting me to my race and you're limiting other individuals, what you're saying is that, well, she's a female. She can't enjoy Blade or Black Panther or Luke Cage. Or he's a man. He can't get anything out of Misty or Catwoman or Wonder Woman or anything like that. Or, which is I've said is my favorite comic book of the year, and Black Widow. I can't get any. She's the complete opposite of me. Complete opposite of me. But I can't get anything out of it according to them because she's a woman and not black. That's nonsense. That's complete nonsense. It's nonsense. We know it's nonsense. Stop signaling to the kids and just keep it 100 and tell the truth, what it is that you're trying to do. And that is you're using these characters to promote your own ideological nonsense. So if you can ruin them, you can sex change, you can race change, you can gender change, you can do all of those things. So as long as it's something that you're an advocate of, you're just using the kids just as whatever. This is why you see this a lot when it comes to these live actions, and you see in some of these weird and odd castings. It has nothing to do with the kids seeing themselves. They could always just create a new character, and there's so many original black characters, for example. What's the point of tokenizing them? Because it's not about that. It ain't about growing these characters. That's not what it's about. It's about ruining the ones that exist and funnel, because they're recognizable, funneling their own approaches through those characters. Meanwhile, they'll get in the promotional schemes and all of this talking about, well, this has to exist. There has to be a black Batman. Because think about the kids. Because nobody could relate to Batman, who was arguably my favorite character as an adult. Because he's not, I just can't, I don't possess the capacity to find this character relatable because he's white and rich. And I didn't grow up white and rich. I'll never be white and rich. But let you fools tell it. I can't get anything out of it. It's complete nonsense. But it's pathetic that they use the kids to try to promote these agendas or to get away with being lazy instead of creating new characters, fresh characters, growing the ones that already exist. They tokenize the ones that do exist and they say it's for the kids. It's lazy. Let's just be 100 with it. It's lazy. But it was never about that anyway. It was about their own nonsense, and they're just simply using the kids. They're signaling to the kids, or more so on behalf of the kids, because we recognize kids as precious. And if you can do something positive for them, nobody's going to be against that. And therefore, they've created this atmosphere in which if you criticize that, then you hate the kids. It's nonsense. Doesn't even make any sense. But that's the type of nonsense that they promote. And they just run back to the kids. Every single time. I can't tell you how many times. Every time I'm critical of a character. Definitely if that character's female. Or definitely if that character's black. Or if they, or not even that, if the character got tokenized. I'm like, look, dude, this character is goofy. Well, what you got against the kids? It's not for you. Come on, man. Let's keep it 100. And when it comes to these comic book jobs, I'm going to end on this note. A lot of these writers and stuff, they are diversity hires. That's the culture that's been created. And this is why a lot of current comic books suck. But they ain't going to talk about that. They're diversity hires themselves, in which they've promoted themselves as, oh, well, I'm a female. And then you have the people that are hiring for them for these gigs. I'm black, I'm female, bring me on. Even though I don't even possess the capacity or the credentials, the knowledge base to write this character, I'm going to get this character. Why? Because I'm of this particular makeup. And that's why they go around promoting themselves as such. Look at me, I'm a female writer. Look at me, I'm a black writer, female writer. Like, who cares? Congratulations. You're black, you're female. Okay. What do you want a trophy? That doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you can handle this character or anything. That's completely irrelevant to it. Whether you're black, white, male, female, doesn't matter. And the makeup of that staff doesn't matter. Whether it's predominantly white, predominantly Asian, predominantly black, doesn't matter. It's either good or it's not. They're either capable or they're not. God forbid you bring people on based on merit, based on the skill set that they have. God forbid you do that. Because everybody's obsessed with representation and diversity, this is what we have. A bunch of people in positions that they shouldn't be in. And creating this culture and atmosphere in which if you criticize it, well, you hate black people, you hate women, you hate all of this other nonsense, which is complete bullcrap. But that's what they've been able to do by hijacking these characters and unfortunately hijacking an entire industry. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. So stop using the kids. And I just want to be very clear, no matter what your personal makeup, these are things that you cannot control. You were born with, your skin tone, all of that stuff it's just you were born. It's nothing. It's not a trophy. It just is what it is. It just is what it is. You don't deserve any sort of pat on the back, nor do you deserve any sort of preference or treatment in that regards, in terms of being able to write a character or being able to see yourself. Nobody cares about that. Can you do it or can you not? And I think they can. And that's indicative in the simple fact that anytime there's a criticism, it goes back to the kids and such. Because they have to see themselves. God forbid, you just suck.